the smell hits first, not the kind you can ignore, not the kind you get used to. This is the kind that makes you step back, the kind that makes you question how a place like this could even exist. The door creaks open slowly, revealing a space that looks frozen in time, but not in a good way. Trash piled high like unstable towers, grease hardened into thick layers on every surface, mold spreading quietly across walls and ceilings like it has claimed the place as its own. Furniture buried, floors invisible, air heavy. This is not just a mess. This is disaster. And yet, hidden beneath all of this, there is something else, something waiting. Something that, with enough patience, effort, and precision, can be transformed into something almost unrecognizable. Because what you are about to witness is not just cleaning. It is a complete rebirth. At first it feels impossible. Standing at the entrance, you try to take it all in. Where do you even begin? There is no clear starting point. Every inch is covered. Every corner tells a story of neglect, time, and chaos. The kitchen looks like it has not been touched in years. The sink is clogged with layers of grime. The stove is coated in thick black residue. Cabinets stick when opened, as if they are resisting being disturbed. And the smell, it lingers. But here is where something shifts. Because instead of turning away, the process begins. The first step is always the hardest. Removing the obvious trash. Bag after bag, piece by piece, slowly reclaiming space. It is not glamorous, it is not satisfying yet, it is exhausting. Dust rises into the air. Hidden debris appears under every layer removed. Time feels slow, but then something interesting happens. A small patch of floor appears, just a tiny section, barely noticeable. But it is clean, and that is when the transformation truly begins. Because once you see what is possible, you cannot unsee it. The rhythm changes, movements become faster, more focused. There is a system now. Clear one section, then another, then another. Each bag removed is not just trash leaving the room, it is progress becoming visible. Hours pass. The room starts to breathe again. Now the deeper work begins. This is where the real satisfaction lies. The surfaces. Layers of grease that have built up over years do not disappear easily. They resist. They cling. It takes scrubbing, pressure, and the right technique. Cleaning solutions are applied, left to sit, then attacked with brushes and cloths. At first, nothing seems to happen, but then, a streak, a single clean line cuts through the grime, and suddenly, you realize what is underneath: shiny surfaces, smooth textures, materials that have not been seen in years. The transformation is not just visible, it is dramatic. The stove goes from blackened and dull to reflective and almost new. The sink, once clogged and stained, begins to shine under the light. Water runs freely again. The sound alone feels like progress. And then there are the walls. Walls are often forgotten. But here, they tell the story more than anything else. Stains, marks, discoloration, all signs of time and neglect. Cleaning them is slow, methodical. But as each section is wiped down, the original color begins to return. It is like watching the past being restored. But this is not just about surfaces. This is about detail. Corners that have not been touched in years are finally reached. Edges are cleaned. Small hidden spaces are cleared. Every inch matters. Because the difference between a clean space and a transformed space is in the details. And this is where it becomes deeply satisfying. You start to notice the contrast, before and after, side by side, one half still covered in chaos, the other half clean, calm, almost peaceful. It is no longer just cleaning. It is a visual story unfolding in real time. And the more it progresses, the more addictive it becomes. You want to see what the next section will reveal. You want to push further. You want to uncover everything. Because now, the end is no longer impossible, it is inevitable. The floors come next. At first, they are barely visible, covered in layers of dirt, dust, and residue. But once cleared, the real work begins. Scrubbing, washing. It takes time, it takes effort. But slowly the original surface begins to appear. Tiles regain their color. Wood regains its texture. Patterns that were hidden for years suddenly reappear. And with every pass, the room transforms again. The light reflects differently now. The air feels lighter, the space feels alive. But there is still more, because a true transformation does not stop at cleaning. It elevates. Furniture that was once buried is brought back into the open. Cleaned, restored, repositioned. What once looked like useless clutter now becomes part of a functional space. Items are organized, arranged with intention. The chaos is replaced with structure, and suddenly, you are not looking at a disaster anymore. You are looking at a home. This is the moment that makes everything worth it. The final touches. Small details that bring everything together. Wiping down remaining surfaces, adjusting placement, ensuring every corner is clean, every surface shines. Every detail is perfect. And then, you step back, and for a moment it is hard to believe this is the same place. The transformation is complete. What was once overwhelming is now calming. What was once chaotic is now organized. What was once unlivable is now luxurious. And this is where the real satisfaction hits. Not just because it looks good, but because of what it represents. This is proof that no matter how bad something gets, it can be restored. That even the most neglected spaces can be brought back to life. That transformation is always possible, if you are willing to put in the work. And there is something deeply powerful about that. Because it is not just about cleaning a space, it is about changing it completely. Taking something that feels lost, and giving it a second chance. And that is why these transformations are so addictive to watch. Because they tap into something deeper. The idea that progress is possible. That change is real. That no matter how overwhelming things seem, there is always a way forward. But here is something most people do not realize. What you see at the end, the clean, polished, perfect space, that is only a small part of the story. The real story is in the process. The hours of effort, the moments of doubt, the physical and mental challenge of pushing through something that feels endless. Because at the beginning it does not feel satisfying. It feels difficult. It feels overwhelming. It feels like too much. But that is exactly why the ending feels so powerful, because it was earned. Every clean surface, every restored detail, every visible improvement, it all comes from consistent effort, and that is something that goes beyond cleaning. It is a reminder that the biggest transformations always start small, one step, one section, one moment of progress, and then another, and another, until suddenly everything changes. And here is the part that stays with you long after the transformation is complete. Because once the tools are packed away, once the floors are dry, once the air smells fresh again, there is a quiet moment. A moment where everything just feels still. You walk through the space slowly. Every step echoes differently now. There is no clutter blocking your way. No heaviness in the air. Just openness. Just clarity. And it makes you think. How many things in life feel like that before they are cleaned up? Overwhelming. Messy. Out of control. But just like this space, they are not beyond repair. They are just waiting for effort. Waiting for patience. Waiting for someone to begin. Because in the end, the most powerful part of this entire transformation is not what you see. It is what it proves. That change is always possible. Once you decide to start. So the next time you see a space that feels beyond saving, remember this. What looks like disaster might just be the beginning of something incredible. What feels impossible might just need a starting point. And what seems like chaos might be waiting for someone to bring it back to life. Because transformation is not about where you start. It is about what you are willing to do next. And sometimes the most satisfying transformations come from the places no one else wants to touch. The places everyone else has given up on. The places that seem too far gone. Because those are the places where the change is the most dramatic, where the contrast is the strongest, where the result is the most rewarding. And that is exactly what makes it unforgettable. From disaster to luxury. From chaos to calm. From something completely broken to something that feels brand new. And once you see it happen, you start to realize something. Maybe it is not just spaces that can be transformed, maybe anything can.